Good afternoon and welcome to All About Animals. I am Sherry Graditor, and as you can see, I'm here pretty much by myself in an absolutely beautiful woodland on an absolutely glorious day. The leaves have not yet come out, but the birds are singing, the frogs are croaking. All of the signs that we have that spring is arriving are with us today. And so it's an appropriate day for doing our Hey Guys, Spring is Arriving show. I'd like to talk a little bit about what happens in the spring in the woodlands, which are with our natural surroundings and the creatures that we share this earth with. Start with the birds. Right now you're hearing tremendous bird song. The birds are mating. The migratory birds that are coming through, and if you have feeders, there are beautiful things at your feeders right now. Birds are beginning to build nests. Birds are beginning to kind of get themselves centered and ready for the birth of a new generation. Eggs to be laid, babies to be had. And invariably every year, and I don't know if you can hear that we have quite a gusty wind today, we will have storms, we will have winds after the nests are made and after the eggs are laid. And oftentimes those eggs fall from the nest, and oftentimes the nests are knocked from the trees. And that kind of is part of the balance of nature, and birds accommodate themselves to that. The population does. Once baby birds are born, they're born virtually featherless. They're naked little funny looking scrawny creatures in their nests being fed by their mothers and their fathers. And they stay in that nest until they are fully fledged, in other words, until their feathers are out, at which point mama bird and daddy bird will push them right out of the nest. They will be on the ground and they will be learning to fly. And there are two steps to the issues of birds in the spring. The first one is birds that are not yet fledged, baby birds that fall out of a nest, or if a nest is knocked out of a tree, which happens, people believe that if they lay hands on those baby birds, the mother will abandon them. Birds cannot smell humans on their babies. And birds are wonderful, caring parents. They take care of their young. If you find baby birds that are not yet fledged and they're on the ground, and you can identify the location of that nest, and you're brave enough to get up on a ladder and carry those baby birds back up, do it. If they're back in the nest where mom and dad were taking care of them, mom and dad will continue to do so. They're not doomed. They're not helpless. They're helpless, but they're not hopeless. If you see little birds on the ground and those birds have feathers, they have been pushed out of the nest by their parents. We talk about teaching our children to leave the nest. Mother and daddy bird are very good at that. And the babies learn to fly by being pushed out of the nest. Mother and dad continue to come to the ground, continue to care for those babies. And well-meaning people and well-meaning children, wonderful kids who love animals, think this poor helpless bird is on the ground. I have to do something, I'm going to take it home and I'm going to feed it. And 9 times out of 10, when you do that, that baby bird is going to die. And even if that baby bird survives, it doesn't know how to be a bird, because you can't teach it to fly, and you can't teach it to find food, and you can't teach it to live in its natural state. So by removing a fully fledged baby bird from the ground where you found it, you're basically removing it from the population, and you're making it impossible for that bird to ever be the bird that it was born to be. So, two sides. If you find unfledged babies on the ground and you can identify the nest, I know of one woman who found 3, I don't remember what they were, but they were large birds that were totally naked, unfledged, that the nest had been blown out of a tree, and she actually took a wicker basket and climbed up the tree and wedged that wicker basket in the crotch of the tree and fastened it down and put the baby birds in it. And within 3 or 4 hours, mama had heard those babies crying. Mama came, mama was feeding them, and she raised them in a wicker basket. So there are alternatives, but the worst of these is taking those birds into your house. And go away from birds a little bit. Right now we're finding lots and lots of baby snakes and grown snakes. Snakes are cold-blooded. They use the sunlight to warm their bodies, and they will be basking in the sun right now. Some snakes are born from eggs, some snakes are born live birth. And the little baby snakes are really very tiny and very cute, and you'll sometimes see just a whole ball of them if they've just been born, and they will scatter on their own and they will take care of themselves. In this area in northern Illinois, we have one native venomous snake, which is the Massasauga rattlesnake, which is a pygmy rattlesnake. They're 2 to 3 feet long. They're not really big, and they are very shy, and they get out of your way. And in 20 years, I've never heard of anybody having an encounter with them. What you're going to see garter snakes, you're going to see racers, you're going to see smooth greens, native snakes that don't bite, that won't bother you, and if you just leave them alone, they will continue to survive. We want to go away from that and take it to the warm-blooded animals, and primarily deer, because that's where we see the most of our problems. When mama deer produces a fawn or twin fawns or even sometimes triplet fawns, she does not stay with them. She will put them in a place that she feels is safe. She'll tell them to stay there, and unlike our children, who don't always listen, those fawns will stay where mama has placed them until she comes back. Mama deer has a body odor. She smells like a deer. Fawns have no odor to their bodies, and predators cannot track them by scent. So mama stays away from them except to feed them, and she only comes back to feed them and leaves them alone. So if you're walking and you come upon a fawn that's laying there all alone, and you look around and say, "Where's the mother?" and the mother's not there, don't think that fawn has been abandoned. If you have concerns, come back 2 or 3 times over a period of time. If the fawn is crying and bleeding, it's hungry. Bleating, not bleeding. B-L-E-A-T. If the fawn is crying and bleeding, that means it's hungry. That means mama hasn't been there. That's the time to contact a licensed rehabber and have them come out and take a look. Don't move the baby. Mama will come back. Her baby will have been kidnapped. That baby, again, has been removed from the wild. You're punishing the fawn, and you're punishing the mother by trying to do good. We love our wildlife. I've seen little baby squirrels being carried around by mama squirrels in their mouths. Sometimes they drop them. They come back for them. If a squirrel is on the ground and there's nobody there and it's a little bitty baby, leave it there. Let mama have a chance to come and rescue it. Keep an eye, make sure it's okay. It is illegal in the state of Illinois to have any indigenous wildlife as a pet. It is illegal to keep them. We have licensed rehabbers. The Department of Natural Resources has a list. Most of your animal shelters, if you contact them, will have a list. I have a list. Lots of people have lists of those people who are licensed by the state or the federal government, in the case of migratory wildfowl, to rehab them. So if you see an animal that you think might be in trouble, the best thing you can do for that animal, unless it's in the middle of the road and has to be moved, is leave it alone. And one last thing, right now the animals are running back and forth across the streets and they're getting hit. If you go to pick up an animal that's been hit by a car and that animal bites you or scratches you, the county police or the animal control people will take that animal and kill it to examine its brain to verify that it's not carrying rabies. If you don't know how to handle them, get help. Call your local police department. Call someone. Get someone out who can safely move an animal out of harm's way if it's in harm's way. And if it's not in harm's way, get hold of a rehabber and see if you can get help. Spring is coming. The woods will be gloriously green. Our yards, our gardens, and our forests will be full of wonderful, beautiful wildlife who belong in the wilds and in the woods. These woods will be magnificent in a month in all their glory and full of life. Respect that life. Let it stay where it belongs. Enjoy it. Love it. But know what you're doing, and if you don't, please, please, please contact someone who does. This is the spring message. I try to do this every year, mainly because the people who watch this show love animals and need to know. So thank you very much for listening to me, and I will now take you to Save a Pet and show you some marvelous dogs and cats who need homes.